Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L. Now let's talk My Hero Academia. Let's just talk to My Hero Academia. We're continuing with the manga arc review, just the sum up of the arc, just talking about different aspects of it and what went right, what went wrong. This video is mostly about what went right. We're going to talk about the best fight of the arc. This is something I've seen in the comments a little bit, so I just want to put it out there and see what you guys think as well. This is going to be a much more opinionated video. It's pretty much just going to be built and piggybacked off of my own likes of what makes a good fight. So because of that, I'd really like to hear your opinion, guys. Let me know down below what you think. And also, because in the last video, people were also giving their thoughts about the arc overall. I would love to see what you guys thought about the internship arc as a whole as well, if you want to write it up and you don't think you'll be here for the other videos. Okay, so let's just get into it. So this arc featured quite a few fights. There was the Izuku versus Night Eye, technically a bit of a skirmish at the beginning just to test out Izuku's capabilities. We had Kirishima versus the one-time gangster guy, then Kirishima and Fat Gum versus Rappa, and also the girls versus a giant monster that was able to make them exhausted. There were a lot of fights, but really when I look at it, my top three, when I look at which fights I think really stood out, it's really Suneater versus the three guys from Chisaki's group. It's Izuku versus Chisaki, and it's Mirio versus Chisaki. Of those three, the one that really just sticks out to me is Mirio versus Chisaki. I would say that this was the best fight in the arc, but the only one that it really comes in contention with is Izuku versus Chisaki if we were to actually get into it. So that's my overall statement. I am saying I think that one was the best fight, but I know that I am a bit biased and I know it's coming out of from what I enjoy seeing in action fight scenes. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about the comparison to the Izuku and Chisaki fight, because those two fights actually had an interesting kind of contrasting, I don't know, logic going into them, which makes it a bit interesting to talk about. Before getting into them, though, I just want to quickly cover Suneater versus the three guys from Chisaki's group. I really should be respecting their name more. You know, it's the Cleansing Salvo or the guys with the mask. I'm pretty sure the name changed with the translators, but it's the guys with the mask that Chisaki just kind of uses as a sacrificial kind of take out the enemy kind of maneuver. We know who I'm talking about: the Eater, the Stealer, and the Crystal-er. Anyway, this fight was, I think, pretty worthwhile in that it kind of showed us what exactly happens to a student that goes to UA. Because when you look at the fight, it was really just a lot of quirk interactions and just showing the mastery of a quirk, especially on Suneater's side. There was that one specific panel when Suneater was using the Chimera Kraken, and I thought that was amazing. I think that was the best possible panel. I think that's the best page to kind of capture the feeling of this fight, because the dialogue leading up to the Chimera Kraken was like Suneater going through what he's learned at UA. He unlocked size variety, he unlocked multiple simultaneous activations, and then he also unlocked the free selection of specific attributes. You know, you look at the finished product of Suneater's quirk and you think that's really overpowered, but I actually really enjoy the components that went into making it. Like, you could very easily imagine this kid having a limitation when he first started of only being able to activate like one type of animal at a time, or maybe even one limb at a time. And so when you see it here, you see Suneater like choosing to select poison over not using poison, merging his, I guess, tentacles with some kind of hard shell on top of it. It was just a really cool sequence. Mind you, his fight also has the cool factor of, oh my god, he's facing off against three people, like he's thwarting their plans. But I really think the fight's focus was just the incredibleness of how far a student can take their quirk. In that fight, we also had a lot of very interesting quirk interactions. I think one of the strengths of having a 3 versus 1 scenario is that you get to see more quirks in action. Seeing the villains use their quirks against Suneater was neat, right? Like the guy that has larceny or thief, however you want to call it. I might even be saying it wrong here. He manages to steal a piece of Suneater's armor. I think that was really neat. That was really cool. Having the ingestion guy going in there and eating away at Suneater's defenses, and Suneater making the observation that's probably why Eraserhead took him out first, because that guy was a bad matchup for me. And then even the guy with the crystals, when Suneater eats a crystal and is able to reproduce that crystal. All those interactions were pretty cool, man. It was just a neat fight when it came to, again, establishing just what a third-year student at UA can do. And then imagine that kind of capability, and imagine it coming from our boys in 1A, right? Like, I'm excited. Suneater has given me an exciting future. He's given me a future to look for when it comes to the complexity of what our guys can do with their quirks. Very excited. So that's why I would put that one in a high number 3 spot. Now, moving into the Mirio versus Chisaki and Izuku versus Chisaki fight. Now, I really do think, like for these two fights, it really depends on what kind of reader you are. What do you enjoy? Do you enjoy the incredible bombastic type fights that are just so spectacular, so kind of like on a whole other level? Or do you enjoy the more personal, up in your face type fight, right? Because that's really what we get with these two fights. They're a pretty good contrast to each other, specifically because they have Chisaki in the middle of it, so he can make the comparisons for the readers to know. If I was to like kind of place up some metaphors here or try to make a comparison to illustrate what kind of fights these were, for me this was akin to, imagine a situation where someone needs to get into a computer, they need to hack into an account, they need a password. This was akin to seeing the difference between someone going and social engineering, finding out this person's social media life, trying to get any kind of clue that would give them a hint towards the password, versus someone just using a brute force algorithm, just running every possible alphanumeric combination that can happen with 8 characters, just running it through until he finally gets it. That's really what it was to me. It was just skill versus brute force. That was the comparison between these two fights. And myself as a reader, I really enjoy the skill aspect more. And we know that this was the thing because we can look at the characters' rhetorics, we can look at their logic, we can look at what the characters were saying and what Chisaki was saying to justify this comparison, right? We look at Chisaki and he commented to Izuku that Izuku's movements were easier to read than Mirio's or Night Eye's. Mirio and Night Eye both play a very different style. We also got like these direct contrasts from Izuku and even Mirio's inner monologues. Izuku's monologues were more based around, oh shit, I can't do this. Thank God I had Iron Souls. Like we had that panel of Izuku, like he just can't read Chisaki's movements. Whereas Mirio's monologues are more based around Mirio predicting the moves and counting on his ability to predict the moves. While Mirio was getting his upper hand by anticipating Chisaki's moves and getting into his head, Izuku, his rhetoric's conclusion was that he had to go so fast that Chisaki just couldn't keep up. And again, if you're the kind of person that really values the bombastic nature of it, you look at Izuku and Chisaki's fight and you see this kid going at 100% with the aid of a little rescuey girl versus, you know, a abomination. Like this is the most anime type fight that you're gonna get in My Hero Academia thus far. Like when you look at this fight, this is like, yeah, that's anime. That's definitely like, yeah, that's the Japanese people. They're going crazy with their monster fights again. It's just that fight does capture a certain aesthetic, but when it comes back to it, for me personally, I look back at the Mirio and the Chisaki fight and it just stands out way more to me. And we do know that that fight does have a bigger impact in the story for one character, that being Eri. Izuku takes up the fight against Chisaki. He's pretty much taking the torch from Mirio. He's continuing what Mirio started, because it all starts with Eri grabbing the cape that was used to defend her when he was doing his fight with Chisaki and Kurono. So on a thematic level too, like Izuku's fight kind of piggybacks off of Mirio's, but that does not take away the value from Izuku's fight. One is a bit more elegant and one is a bit more overwhelming. So let's just round up, like when I look at this fight, what I really think, the reasons I see this fight as amazing outside of just my personal preference, you know. Things that make that fight amazing. Mirio was still suffering from disorientation from the one drunk guy's quirk, thereby putting another handicap on him. Mirio also made strategic use of a cape. Like, it's always nice when we get to see why heroes use a cape, and in this case, it was to just dodge from bullets. Pretty smart. Mirio, again, was fighting with a handicap because he had to protect Eri. Kind of put you on the edge of the seat. Mirio took advantage of Chisaki's behavior to predict him. Mirio kept 2 enemies in check in both Chisaki and Kurono, and Mirio continued to keep those 2 enemies in check while he was depowered just with pure skill. And that was made even more impressive since we knew coming from the Rappa fight that Chisaki had pretty impressive combat ability. And to just think that Mirio was able to counter Chisaki just by playing him, by predicting his moves, that's pretty amazing. The guy was dancing with death and he did not have any kind of save button. That was just him purely believing in what he's done up till that point. When it came to Mirio, like, This is what quirkless combat looks like. This is what people can attain if they were without their quirks. Like, yeah, it's freaking dangerous, but holy man, Mirio, look at that guy. The most unfortunate thing about this fight, though, is that we didn't get to see 15 minutes of Mirio surviving. I think that would have been amazing, but that would have drawn out the chapter. That would have drawn out this this arc as well. But hey, I just imagine it as it was too awesome for readers to even be able to see it. But maybe this is one of those things that the anime will expand on. I'm really looking forward towards that. Anyway, yeah, those are like the reasons I had listed out for why I thought that fight was amazing. And it really just comes down to like his fight had it kept. I remember his fight. I remember watching it or reading it week to week was exciting because it was like I'm on the edge of my seat because this is where like shit could go wrong. Every chapter was like trying to guess what's about to happen to Mirio because he was outgunned and overwhelmed. He had to deal with a really stacked deck, but the guy pulled it off. He pulled it off until Izuku got there and could continue the fight. So, you know, in terms of an entertainment value, I really do think that was the best fight. On the technical level, I do think that was also the best fight. Again, the shot of Mirio punching Chisaki with half of his hand, or like part of his hand still through Chisaki's hand, that's an awesome visual. But again, that doesn't take away from the other fight, Izuku versus Chisaki, Abomination form. I really do think quite a few people would have enjoyed that fight. But like that fight compared to the Mirio fight it's less elegant. It's simpler. It's pretty much Izuku beating Chisaki around and kicking him up into the air and just overwhelming Chisaki. Again, it's pretty cool. But there's something about the down and personal style of fighting that we got with Chisaki and Mirio. So that's my favorite, guys. I would love to hear your rationale. I would love to hear your reasoning. Let me know down below. Overall, like when it came to the fights for this arc, standouts. There are standouts. The three that I went into, I do think those are standout fights. But we also got to see the other ones. The Kirishima fights we know are absolutely important for Kirishima's character. The fights with Ochiko, Suyu, Nejiri, and Dragon Girl, those fights might be a promise for more things to come. If anything, we get to see combination attacks with those fights, so that's pretty neat. That's something that we can honestly say is pretty novel. And I would say the Night Eye fights were also pretty impressive, but we can't really collect any returns on that since Night Eye lost the ultimate fight. But, you know, hey. Oh man, now that I think about it, Izuku has not learned much from Night Eye, which was the initial point of this arc. Oh, it kind of sucks for Izuku. Jeez. I guess we'll have to do like a roundup video for like what has this arc accomplished. I'll think about it. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Till next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.